Fantastic. So we are live. I'm going to be starting in a few minutes, or actually in less than a few minutes. Just going to allow for some people to join us live. For those of you who do join us live, feel free to leave your comments. We're going to be speaking about SEO, but with a particular focus today on search intent, and why search intent is important. Not necessarily just about trying to rank, but being a little bit more conscious about what we are ranking for, and why those keywords are important. So I have a very, very special guest with me. I'm going to bring her on in a second. But just as we kind of allow for people to join us, um, I started this series of Be My Guest lives here on LinkedIn, mainly because well we've almost hit 15,000 followers on LinkedIn now, and a lot of my followers I've noticed are specialists in certain areas of marketing, so practitioners in SEO, like we're going to be speaking about today. We've got some people who are going to be talking about automation marketing, about Facebook ads, and all of these different aspects of marketing that we can all benefit from. And so I thought it would be a great opportunity for me to get a few experts, who I've connected with via LinkedIn, and building kind of that LinkedIn community to share, what they do on a day-to-day basis, some of their insights in terms of their industries, so we can all sit and learn from each other and grow as marketers and business owners alike. So for those of you who do join us live, feel free to leave your comments and we'll do our best to get through all of your comments uh, during the live. For those of you who are watching this after we've gone live, then still feel free to send us your comments as well. I'll be leaving information of our guest today as well. So you can contact her directly if you have questions, or if you require certain services or whatnot. But I'm going to, without further ado, introduce Aimée. I'm going to allow her to kind of introduce herself and what she does. So yeah, it's a pleasure having you on, Aimée. Thank you so much for responding to the post I put out on LinkedIn. And we actually had a conversation before this live. I think it was a few weeks ago now that we sat and spoke. And there was so much value that I believe you can add to my audience and also to me. In my, we're all growing and learning as fast paced this industry is. It's always important to kind of like iron sharpens iron and learn from one another. So yeah, can you give us a little bit of a intro into who you are and what you do first and foremost?
Well, first of all, Sam, I want to say thank you very much for this privilege to speak with you today because I'm incredibly honored. I know I'm fangirling right now, but you were pivotal to the beginning of my career to learn about SEO. I'm a senior copywriter and strategist in the beginning of my career, and I've been in industry. I don't want to say expert. Expert's a bit heavy, but definitely people know about they know about me or in the UK and now in the United States, but I had to get very quickly up to date with SEO to sharpen my skills and to be competitive within the market as a copywriter, and to best service my clients. So, Sam's work, his courses have been incredibly pivotal and very important to my own work and to keeping updated with all of the different, Google updates, Bing, and etc. So I'm really so honored to be here to be able to speak with you all and Sam. So basically, my name is Aimée. I'm a senior copywriter and strategist, as I mentioned. I specialize in the retail and e-commerce industries. So I'm not necessarily an SEO. How shall I say, like I'm not Neil Patel. I'm not, not strategic, like hardcore SEO. Specific, specialized expert. But the thing is that I use it a lot in my work, as you can understand, to optimize web content for my clients, and also too, I'm also a specialist in product copy, which means is that for product descriptions and for sales pages in regards to a product, I help optimize those and write for that content. So for international brands. So the reason why me and Sam think and I'm thankful for this opportunity to be able to talk about this. And we came up with this conversation because the fact is that in my work, I was receiving, obviously requests for deliverables, certain copy deliverables, and then the client on my side was giving me a list of very generic SEO keywords, long tail keywords that I felt that, I mean, yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, just because I am very involved with the industry, I'm very, yeah, yeah, I should say that I'm just very involved. So the thing is that I knew that a lot of the stuff that they were asking me to plug in to the work to optimize the web pages were just pretty much so generic and so like superficial, and that really won't really, I mean, sure, it may catch a couple fish, but it wasn't
Mm,
going to get the big, salmon or trout, and that there was so much more specialized or more interesting SEO keywords that could be a little bit more, shall we say, sharpened to actually, reach your intended customer. I mean, like I'm getting super generic stuff. And I was like, I felt that, and also as a copywriter, I personally, I mean, I don't, we can argue about it, but I feel forced in a way to have to use
mm,
these keywords when I know that there's better keywords out there. I'm sure things change around. I'm not talking about the super specialized trendy stuff like Stanley, 1913 and all these things, but but there are still a little bit more. I mean, like instead of like cruelty-free skincare, there's definitely a little bit more um, specialized keywords in regards to your SERP or into social. We need to also talk about social media search now. I mean, that's something. I
mm,
mean, I know it's not necessarily SEO, but it's something that we all need to consider. We all need to think about because obviously TikTok is pretty much becoming a search engine itself. Pinterest is a search engine. YouTube is a search engine. So,
mm.
yeah, we need to consider what is the actual, dig a little deeper basically, and what is really the search intent for your intended audience, I mean, that's really the catalyst for this whole conversation.
Awesome, awesome. There's so much that you said there already that we can kind of like dive into, but I don't want to deviate too much away from kind of what you have already in mind for us. But first and foremost, just for people who might be watching this and thinking search intent, what does that even mean as it pertains to SEO and keywords? Can you give us a little bit of a breakdown in terms of like what we should be considering, what we should be keeping in mind when we're thinking about search intent?
Of course, Sam. And I apologize if I really kind of contextualize this in a very colloquial way. But the thing is that really, basically, let's simplify it down. It's what your intended audience or intended buyer, potential buyer, will be searching or plugging into, Google, into Bing, into whatever, Opera, Chrome, sorry, not Chrome. I apologize. Let me even step back from that. I don't want to get any hate mail. But, sorry, my brain, because I'm looking at, yeah, okay. So, and what are they plugging into TikTok and all these things? I mean, what are, like, say if we're doing, like, say if we work with Miss Kardashian with Skims, let's use that as a case study or an example. Like what are they really plugging in? What are these people? And it doesn't have to be necessarily, cis women. It could be other types of folks. Like what are they plugging in to buy these items? Really, I mean, it's not just, you're not just going to plug in Kim Kardashian and then Skims maybe it may pop up, but it may not pop up. Because there's so much other things that are going to be pushing it down in the SERP search. And also, too, the thing is that another thing I want to bring up, which is very important, is the fact that, and it's kind of a beautiful thing. It's a pain. It's a pain point for all of us in the industry, but also another thing, one of the reasons why we do it is that there's societal change and things change and things people, things resurface and things, evolve. So, as an example, prime example, one of my favorite other than Sam, one of my favorite SEO experts is Lily Ray in New York, and obviously she's very esteemed. And she, I was reading a recent article from her, and she was mentioning about like as an example, the Barbie. If you plug in Barbie into your search engine or into TikTok or wherever, now you're going to start seeing the Barbie movie surface. So those are things that you need to kind of think about, and that's the reason why you constantly need to evaluate your search intent, or even keep it evergreen, or keep it basically, do you want to keep basically you have to have a strategy. Do you want to keep it evergreen, or do you want to get very, specific and specialized? Because what is the point of spending, so much money and time and manpower where nobody's going to find your stuff, or it's just going to be buried basically within all this other menagerie of things, like say if you just plug in Disney.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So I guess my follow-up question to that then is, for someone who's watching this and they're thinking, what is the process then to finding keywords that have more intentionality? Do you have like a process that you go through, or any platforms or anything, or how do you go about things?
Yes, of course. I mean, everything in our industry there should be a strategy, and there should be a process and best practices, because we don't got time. Nobody got time for that. But also too, the thing is that obviously, we need to be able to give our clients, or, whoever's working with us, the best possible outcomes, especially in this industry. so
Mm,
um so basically my approach, it's become second nature, very natural to me now. So it's kind of like, but in the beginning of my process, um so what I used to do, and really in the early days, especially before AI was so prevalent in copywriting and marketing, what I was doing is I was, you know, first of all, I really digged into deep, and especially when I was just working on stuff that people had no, I mean, I had a lot of people in the beginning that didn't know who they were targeting. They had no idea. They didn't have the resources, the money, the thought process. It's a
mm,
long story. And we've all been there in the beginning of our careers. So we kind of had to wing it a little bit. So what I was thinking, like, if I didn't even get a brief. I literally got like, this is the product.
mm,
So the thing is that, as an example, like I did a whole line of like character type T-shirts with slogans, that type of thing. So the thing is that I was like, okay, so if this particular T-shirt, had like a particular Disney character, let's use that. I think that's a pretty generic one that a lot of people could understand. What would I search, like, why would I buy, who is the person buying a Disney character T-shirt, And, obviously with Disney, there's different variances, they could be younger folks, it could be, older folks, it could be all different types of folks. It could be families, it could be, homosexual men. I mean, it could be a whole gamut of people. So I would look at the actual product, and the first thing I would do is like say, okay, who is this person? Who is like, I was thinking to my head, the story, like, again, this is very generic and everybody has their own process, but I was thinking to myself, okay, who is buying this? And also too, Disney's customer avatar persona is the dreamer or the family builder.
mm.
So to kind of wrap that around. So then, when I thought about developing the story in my mind and who I'm targeting with this particular piece, then I'll sit there and think, and I would start writing down. I would just start writing down like, key for words or key frames or things that I thought, okay, this person's going to be looking for this, like, what makes the most sense. And then I would just start plugging. Okay, this is before I got more sophisticated, but I started just plugging into Google and seeing what was populating like in the automatic suggestions and automatic searches. Okay. And then also too, I was looking at, obviously, once I came to like, say I searched, as an example, I would search, you know Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse. you know then I'll look at that and then see at the bottom, usually at Google on the bottom, they have obviously what has been recently searched, or what people who have searched for that particular keyword, what other, long tail keywords are they really considering? So then I would take those into account as well. I mean, that's before I got super sophisticated. And again, before, AI and all these things. And then I kind of got more in after I started taking your courses and start, watching your YouTube videos and, listening and reading your work. Then I got a little bit more, started utilizing, which is one of my favorite tools, research tools now, is Keywords Everywhere. I
Okay.
love it. Answer the public, especially when, using, blog work. But the thing is that answer the public, in my opinion, is a little too generic. It's a little too
Mm,
generic. And then also too, I used to utilize a lot Google Trends, and doing a lot of research with Google Trends there and seeing because again, things are changing, they're melding, they're resurfacing, they're, so I would look at that as well and see kind of like where people were kind of going with certain items. But now I have to say, if people, want to do this process, I highly recommend this. A lot of, I would say, LinkedIn influencers or experts that within your certain industry, you'll start seeing them. But you'll see every quarter they start releasing like SEO, search intent, keywords, and what are they, how are they ranking, if they're going up in rank or if they're going down in rank. And there's two people that I recommend. One is Lucy Thorpe, who's based in the UK. She's a fabulous copywriter. So basically, generally every quarter she'll release like her own report on LinkedIn stating like, like an example, LED light therapy, like how is it pushing up in the ranks? How is it moving up the ranks in SEO? And she's an amazing person to follow. In the United States, there's Joanna Williams. She's somebody to really look forward, again, to find a bit more of the nuanced keywords, because she much, both of these ladies, they have their ears to the ground. So she's talking about more about TikTok shop, and also apparel. So that's more of her focus. She's kind of looking at
Mm.
the search intent and how those are ranking for, again, more specialized things. And it's great to think about, just something to muse over. So yeah, I would highly recommend checking out those two folks and seeing. And there's also SR ranking, which is another tool that you can use online.
Awesome. Yeah, there's some fabulous tools that you've mentioned, and I always recommend using a tool as well. I feel like you said, like the basis, the start of things to just generate some ideas. You can always use, some of the techniques that you've mentioned. Like the auto suggest, Google, YouTube, and even like you mentioned in social media as well. And I think it's such a huge deal that we don't really think about. We think about SEO, automatically we think Google, but we don't realize or instinctively think about YouTube, about, Instagram, about TikTok, these all being search engines in their own right as well. And what type of keywords are people typing in there? Can you optimize your content on those platforms as well? Your bios, uh, your captions, and all of that kind of stuff. But
And
I think,
also, sorry,
yeah, go for it, go for it.
I apologize. But also too, like, I'm talking about the social media networks. They'll every year they'll publish what their top, ranking keywords are. And also too with Instagram, you need to also check what is banned from Instagram. I don't know why, but they have really generic keywords. I mean, stuff that you wouldn't even like, because there's keywords that we all know that we shouldn't be using, but there's like really kind of like generic ones like love, hashtag love, like or love.
Mm.
Like, okay. Okay, Instagram, I don't know why you don't like that, but you
Yeah,
should
yeah, yeah.
also consider that as well. And then also too, gosh, I had another really good one, and I'm like, my brain stopped. Yes, I got this. Okay, I want to mention because I know your folks, your audience are very deep into the SEO industry. They're very much experts, but I want to give them a copywriting technique that they may be able to utilize, and I think would be again to hone in their search intent keywords is something that we use in the copywriting world called review mining. I don't know. Have you
Mm.
ever worked with that or heard about that? I don't know, Sam.
I haven't. No, I haven't. This is new for me as well.
Cool. Awesome. I'm excited. So basically, I think it's really important to consider, say if you're really were working on a particular campaign or a particular product, and you're going to be working with them for a long period of time, you start looking through their reviews. So what we do is we call review mining. It's based from Joanna Wiebe from Copy Hackers, and it's part of it's very typical copywriting technique. So basically, you just put up a Google spreadsheet or you put up an Excel spreadsheet, whatever is appropriate for you. And basically, what you're doing is that you go through where are the customer reviews. If you most of your customer reviews are on your website, cool, but a lot of that is a little funky. I would check Trustpilot or Amazon because people get real raw, they get real on there, they get the real on there, or
Mm.
something analogous to that. And then you start reading the reviews, and you'll start seeing like a pattern. You start seeing language patterns, or keywords that they're using, or things that they're looking for, and then what you do is you start seeing the pattern start, kind of coming through once you, because again, we're all busy, I know it's, you don't want to spend too much time, but I would say at least if you look at 2 pages, you'll get a good idea of what's going on, if you're skimming through it, and then just take particular statements or particular things that they're concerned with or particular ways of looking at things, and then you start collecting that within your spreadsheet, and then you'll start seeing you start seeing the pattern of the search intent within that particular product. I can't really talk too much about it because NDAs and all that stuff, but I was recently working on a project, and basically it was a technical apparel piece of material, right? I can't get too much into it. So the thing is that what I started seeing in the pattern was the activity that people were associating with that piece of, that particular product. So I was able to utilize that in the product copy.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I feel like, well, I've got a couple of questions that I want to dive into, but I feel like this would be a good opportunity for me to just remind everyone, so I don't hog all of the questions. If anyone has any SEO related questions as well, then this is the best time to drop them into the chat. But what came to mind when you were speaking is like that relationship between copy and SEO, and obviously a lot of say smart business owners who are thinking about progressing, optimizing for SEO and so on and so forth. They might not have the time to be creating content. And although there are resources that can help us with creating content, we know that they're not necessarily up to par yet with hiring a copywriter. So, what would your advice be for a business owner who might be watching, who is thinking about maybe hiring someone who specializes in copywriting uh, to kind of help them create content to help start ranking in search?
Great question. Thank you, Sam. Hire me. Just kidding. I'm
Yeah,
kidding. I'm kidding.
that's
I'm
a good
joking.
tip. That's a good tip.
I'm just being sorry. I'm being facetious. It's my bad sense of humor. My New York sense of humor. But basically, no. So the thing is that again, it kind of is interesting. It's kind of like focusing on what you're trying to do. Like, what are your goals? Like, first of all, what is your goal? Like, what is your objective? Because the thing is that you know out there, like with SEO experts as well. Certain people are very strong, have a strong skill set in certain things, or they can focus on certain things that, maybe another person doesn't have that particular skill set. And the thing is that you need to start asking smart questions around SEO when you're dealing with a copywriter. Because the thing is that some people, they're writers or content writers, which is not copywriter. They're not copywriters. I'm sorry. We can argue about it. Please send
Mm,
me your emails. We'll have, we'll have that conversation. Okay. But the
mm.
thing is, and which is another, again, I'm not downplaying the hard work that they do. It's also very valid, very important. But again, it's dependent on what the business person's objectives and goals are. Okay. So if they want really strong organic SEO, rankings and, receiving from that, they need to work with the copywriter who has some sort of understanding of what SEO is and search intent is. Search intent. So
Mm.
you need to, when you have these questions with these people, you need to ask them about that, like, you know, um, and also ask them, like you asked me, like basically what is the process around that, if they know what the programs are, and also to, if a copywriter doesn't know that in general, they need 2 keywords and not do keyword stuffing within the page, then don't, keep it moving. If that's your goal. If your goal is just to have some really awesome, pretty words, poetry on your website, if you want some really beautiful filigree of words and, bouquet of, you want Walt Whitman, great, bless you. But if that's your intent, but if your intent is to do, also to do, engage your customer and sell to them and get some sort of results and get rankings, then yeah, they need to understand that and understand and have a process around that. So they need to ask that person that. Does that make sense?
Awesome, awesome. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it
Okay.
makes a lot of sense. And I like what you said there as well about because I feel like someone who is head of marketing, or if you're a business owner, you might not have a head of marketing, you might be head of marketing. It's really important to understand where people should sit and kind of, I always see it because I'm from London. I always see it as like a football pitch. But if you're from, well, depending on where you're from, you might call it soccer or you might watch basketball or whatever. But different players on the pitch are all important, but
Yes.
they are positioned in certain places. And I always see like marketers as almost like, in football terms, we would say the midfield. So they're not quite defenders, they're not quite attackers, but they're in the middle when they assist the attack, but they also assist and help the defense as well. So I feel like with SEO, you have people who are, like you said, kind of specialized in understanding what SEO is. And then you have people who are content writers and they can make great, engaging content out
Beautiful.
of almost anything. And then you have copywriters who can kind of help to uh, create a piece of copy that inspires people to take the next step or next action in your business, whether it be, hey, sign up to the newsletter or click this affiliate link or buy our products or whatever it might be. And it's almost like you have to try and put multiple different hats on or hire the right people in the right places to know how to marry all of those together. So, like what we've been speaking about today is doing that keyword research and understanding what keywords are important. And I could go on forever, but I think the main question that I had, that I think would give a lot of value is keyword gold mines. So how do we know, or how do you know when you stumbled across a keyword and you're like, oh my goodness, this is a gold mine. This is great. I definitely want to optimize for this.
Okay, so okay, we're gonna get a little bit more technical. This is not the generic stuff. Also, to get back, I'm sorry, to get back to there was another point I wanted to add to that, and I apologize about the copywriter and
Mm,
SEO, but also to ask them before you start engaging with an SEO agency, because the thing is that sometimes you can get two for the price of one, especially if you're a small business owner, and that might be more useful to you. And
mm,
also, you got to understand the copywriter's prices are going to go into that. You know what I mean? Please,
mm,
like, and also to again, please, I have to hammer this in. You have to, and Sam, you know, but I'm just saying to the folks out there, you gotta really be very clear about what is your objectives and your goals. Because like I had a client recently, lovely, lovely, lovely lady. And, and she was like, I've named the product X, like I can't, again, I don't want to get too much into it, but I named the product X. And I was like, Great title, sure. I was like, is the product SEO optimized? Because this, your audience is a bit more advanced here. So I'm like, okay, it's gonna sit in your H1, H2 on your website. It's a super, super duper important spot for SEO, and for ranking.
mm,
And she's like, no. And I was like, Okay. I was like, if you sure. I mean, but she was okay with that. She wanted her product name that sounded pretty for her. So
yeah.
bless her. Bless her. Okay, that was her goal. She was very clear about that. And I said, "Thank you so much for clarifying for me. How else can I help you?" I did my due diligence. I asked her about it. I said, "Hey," but that
Mm.
wasn't her goal, and that's perfectly okay. So I'm sorry to go back to your, the other question that you asked. I apologize about that, but I was just thinking about that. I just had to add that in there. What was your other question?
So the
I
the
apologize.
question was keyword gold mines.
Oh, yes. Okay.
How does someone know when they've stumbled across a keyword gold mine?
Okay, so we're gonna get a little bit more advanced because my favorite keywords everywhere. They should. I should cut commission for this. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. So, but basically, or when you're in SEM rush, or um, I always pronounce it really wrong, like HubSpot and Afri and all these other great places. So what you're looking for, I don't know if it's a gold mine per se, but to leverage what you want to leverage, you want to look for a search
Mhm,
intent that has, hopefully under 50. I'm sorry, not search intent, but the search volume. It's the search volume is high, but the click through, the cost per click is a relatively good number. And actually, for me per se, like I know, and people are going to get pissed off at me, but my logic is that I mean, I wasn't really necessarily taught this, but my logic is that I look for numbers that so I have two intentions of way of looking at it. So basically, either I look for a high number with moderate click through price compared to the other words I'm searching, because in my theory and the way I view it, I think that okay, we're going to catch a good number of folks. We're going to get a good crowd here. You know what I'm saying? Because the number is
mm,
moderate, it's not super low because that means that it's oversaturated, and the numbers and this click pay. I'm sorry, the click. pay click through click through pay. Sorry, I'm going crazy all of a sudden. The click through rate is actually not too high, because then obviously you don't want to have a huge volume of people,
Mm,
thousands of people coming in, with a big click through rate. So I'll either do that. That'll be one strategy that I do, or my second strategy I do is I look for actually kind of lower numbers, lower volume numbers, but with higher click-through rates. And my logic behind that is, you can sue me or whatever, but my logic is the fact that those are more I don't want to say gold mine, and gold mine's a bit of a heavy term, I think. But it's a really solid, interesting, I'm like, okay. And also too, as we mentioned, like the competition rate is a little bit lower if it's 50 or below. That's yeah. So that's to me,
mm.
that's the sweet spot. It's like, yeah. Okay, so you get like 5 people and you have to pay a little bit more for the click through. But the thing is, the point is that they're more, the search intent is there and they're much more quality leads. And I'm sure everybody, if I told the business owner that, they'd be like, okay, yeah, that
Yeah,
makes sense to me.
yeah, yeah,
So those are my two
yeah.
strategies again around that.
Awesome. Some good strategies there. So we're going to be wrapping up soon.
Nobody has
I
any
wanted to
questions?
touch. I haven't seen any questions
Oh,
in
okay.
the chat, but if
You can
we
ask me.
those of you who are watching us after the fact, feel free to send your questions in. I'm going to leave Aimé's contact details as well. I mean, you can always drop them in the comments as well. And if you're watching this from LinkedIn, then if you at Aimé's Instagram, then hopefully she's kind enough to see it and respond as well. So I'll leave that on screen.
LinkedIn is the
But if
best place to reach me if people wanna, I'm very active on LinkedIn.
awesome, so I've got your LinkedIn up there on the screen for us. So I wanted to kind of we spoke a little bit about SEO agencies, and I think one of the
Yeah.
biggest questions that I get usually with SEO agencies is, how do we, well, number one, how do we know if they're doing the work? Because obviously SEO is one of those things, especially if you don't have a lot of knowledge about what to look for. It and with SEO, I think it can go under the rug for such a long time because you don't tend to see results for a little while. How long, in your opinion, should we be like giving SEO agencies, and what kind of like are there any like short wins or short term results that we should be looking for when it comes to like ranking for these kind of search intent keywords?
Okay, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but from my research and from my, extensive reading, to really get some real traction, long as basically the first thing people need to understand, and most of your audience will, is that SEO is it's a long game strategy, marketing strategy. It's not a short-term wins type of thing, okay? What you can get short-term wins potentially, again, don't sue me, I don't want anybody emailing me some nasty stuff, is potentially you can get short-term wins with social media, and as we talked about with the social media rankings. And including because we need to diversify all of our sources of income, marketing. It needs to be always be omni-channel. I don't care. Guys, stop, but also to consider your Google ads and Facebook ads. Again, it's not SEO as we understand SEO in the traditional sense, but they are, those things are searching for particular keywords or things that make sense to engage that audience. So those are going to be your short-term strategies is to go again Google, Facebook ads, and social media. Those are your kind of three main places for the kind of the short run stuff. Um, but for the SEO as we traditionally know it is long term, and it's going to take at least 6 months to see anything you feel like, wow, this is like super awesome, cool. Like, so traditionally, I would say give an agency like at least 6 months to really, populate what you kind of looking to populate. Again, you may want to structure with evergreen stuff first, because of understanding that, but then when you understand kind of like what the trends are, like when I mentioned all the, LinkedIn influencers, they may give you some ideas of what people are kind of searching for potentially in the next year. Also, WGSN, which is a very expensive trends. agency, but the thing is that they are very, very generous with their knowledge and information. They provide a lot of
Mhm.
white papers and a lot of presentations for free. So that's an incredible resource. Um, so yeah, so for that, I would say at least you're gonna have to wait at least 6 months to see anything that you're like, whoa, cool. And then also too, look at what they're producing for you. Like if they're producing really generic, keywords that you can see is pretty generic. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, you know what I'm saying? But for me, oh, I'm gonna get hate mail, Sam, and I love you. Please, I don't want to get hate mail. I love you guys. I'm not trying to be mean, and I love everybody. And I work with a lot of you guys. But the thing is that like for me, you need to engage an SEO agency if you want technical back end speed and back end technical SEO. I mean, that's where you got to really
Mm.
engage them. You know what I'm saying? Like that's where the money, that's where you're going to get the best return on investment with an SEO agency, in my opinion. In my opinion.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah. I think that's really interesting. Sometimes we can have clunky websites that don't perform well just from a user experience perspective. And then we try to get an SEO agency. I mean, a good SEO agency will spot these things anyway.
Yeah.
I was working with one in collaboration with one about, uh, well, was still kind of in collaboration, but heavily in collaboration about a couple of years ago. And they were really good. That's just spotting immediate things on someone's website. I was like, yeah, this is not going to be good when kind of Google clocks on to this or to that, or it's going to impact your ranking. So definitely, like improving user experience of your website, I think is so vital. It's so important.
And
Um,
optimize your photos. Compress them
Photo
properly.
optimization,
Yeah.
compressing your photos. I think I put a video out
Thank
there
you.
not too long ago about that. Um, Fantastic. So we've got your website link up. What services do you offer, or how can you help people who might be watching us, and where can they find you to connect with you? I know you mentioned LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, definitely. So basically, in regards to anything with retail and e-commerce, and yeah, I am that copywriting lady. So I basically specialize in product copy per se. Again, product descriptions. I mean anything with website really, but really that's my specialty. Like and also to understanding how SEO can really help. I'm not an SEO expert, and you need an SEO agency, especially with all the recent updates with Google, as we all know, because
Mhm.
again, that's going to shift a lot of your SEO and your rankings. So really consider that. But if you want like just like more evergreen stuff in regards to SEO and optimizing the actual on page, not technical, not back end, but on page SEO, then I can definitely help you with that. And also to advise about retail strategy, operational and brand strategy as well.
Awesome, awesome, fantastic. Thank you so much, Aimee, for joining us. Hopefully, this isn't our last live. I know you're super busy as well, with what you're doing, but hopefully, I can pull you in for another live at some point. Um, are there any final tips that you have, or maybe case studies, or anything that we haven't covered yet, or maybe just reiterating some of the important points we've covered for maybe people who've joined us live late, that you would like to share with us before we end off?
So basically, and you brought up before a really amazing, really brilliant question, and I just kind of would love to address it if possible. And thank you for bringing it up. So basically, you asked me like, there's four types of search intent if we're going to get really, really like technical, and one is informational, one is navigational, the other is commercial, and one is transactional. So at the really, I'm talking about like the embryonic stage,
Mm,
talking even to the SEO experts and to the business owners out there, you need to understand what are your objectives and goals. What is the KPI? What is the
mm,
return on investment on this? That's the first question you need to ask yourself, okay? Because again, if SEOs like if you're Palace, streetwear in the UK skatewear brand, they're doing fabulous product copy and it's very good for their audience, but they're not really super concerned about SEO, and that's a strategy.
yeah.
So again, That's the first thing to consider. I know it sounds really simplistic. And then secondly, after that, think about how is your solution going to fix somebody's problem? I know this is all basic stuff. This is all like marketing 101 stuff. But the thing is that
It's
there's so
so
many times,
important.
so important, so many, and this is
Yeah.
gonna trickle down to everything. I mean, it's not even gonna deal with your SEO or your search intent. It's also gonna deal with everything, yeah, all the decisions you make. So yeah, really, you gotta really hone in on that because there's so many times I'm so surprised. So many brands I work with, I don't get that information at all. That's gonna be
Mm,
like 100%, not 100%, that's a bit heavy, but it's gonna be like a good 90% of the way there, if you just do those 2 things to start you off. And then from there, start plugging things in Google. Wh if you are a mom in Birmingham in the UK, who's interested in potentially going to suffrages, at the Bull Ring, what are you searching?
mm, mm. It's that empathy marking, isn't it? Like we mentioned earlier, and it's so important for every aspect of marketing, whether we're speaking about paid ads, whether we're speaking about social media, SEO. The first thing to do is just take a step back, figure
Yes.
out who it is that you're trying to target, and really stepping into their shoes. And I'm so happy that we had this conversation today because it's so important, and it's so easy to do. Even with like the technology that we have today, literally just a Google search away from finding some forums, Quora or whatever. We mentioned like answerthepublic.com and certain tools as well to just find out what conversations are being had.
And customer
Um,
reviews, as we've talked about as well in this conversation, Amazon, Trustpilot, those are like
mm, Customer reviews, seeing what is important to your audience and creating content around that, building that relationship, and optimizing as well your important pages, your sales pages, your listing pages, and so on and so forth. And hopefully we can kind of maybe break that down in a future live as well. It's talking about
of course.
e-commerce SEO and what kinds of things we need to be doing in order to compete in that domain. But yeah,
Mm. And
sorry,
also too,
there was a last thing.
yeah, and there's also too, there's like always reevaluate, what you just did. I would say twice a year, as we said, SEO is a is a long game, it's a long game. So pretty much it takes 6 months to really, start hitting Google. So like really properly where you start seeing some return here. So again, reevaluate twice a year, put a date in your calendar or whoever is working with you on that. Say, hey, we need to sit down, reevaluate our strategy around our search intent twice a year at least.
Awesome. Some great advice here. I'm definitely going to be sharing the link to this video because I feel like it's going to help so many people out in my audience.
Good.
So hopefully the people watching got as much value from it as I did and enjoyed it as much as I did. So I may thank you so much.
Thank you.
All of your links will be available if it's YouTube, it will be in the description. For LinkedIn, you'll be able to contact Aimée directly. But until next time, guys, have a great day and we will see you soon.
Thank you.